Hey guys, welcome back to Vedic Mathvantage. Recently, I had just participated in the Global Mental Math Olympiad, and that's when I realized the real importance of the Vedic math techniques that I have learned and the ones that I'm teaching you. In fact, the one that we're going to do today, square roots, is actually one of the techniques that helped me solve one of the questions in the Olympiad really fast. So, you really need to focus on these techniques because they're way more accurate and way faster. In fact, in the webinar that the organizer conducted for teaching the participants some techniques like tips and tricks on how to improve their speed, they were actually teaching all of the Vedic math methods, the same things that I have been teaching you. So, this is not something that is just a hobby or something in the side. This can be really helpful in all of your exams and external competitions as well. Let's go ahead with today's topic. We'll be doing square roots.
Let's begin. Today we'll be learning how we can find square roots for perfect square numbers. This technique is applicable only for perfect square numbers. I'll be teaching the square root technique over two videos. This one will be going over this technique. In the next video, I'll be teaching you how to use the duplex technique which I taught 2 videos ago. Check that out if you still haven't seen it. I'll be using that technique to find the square root. And you can use that one for finding square root of any number up to any number of digits as well. But this one is only up till 4 digits. But the reason we use this is because it can be done by mere observation. By which I mean, once you see the number, as long as it is under 4 digits or under, and as long as it's a perfect square, you will find out its square root within around 3 to 4 seconds if you're fast enough, of course. Let's show you how. Let me take a number, for example 289. Okay, and for the sake of this video, assume that it is a square number, because sometimes you get questions or like you might get squares with area of some number, and then they tell you to find the side, and they also inform that a side is a whole number or such, around some similar questions like these. Okay, so you can use this technique to quickly find the answer. Okay, let's assume 289 is a square number, which it is. Okay, anyway, so split the number first with 2 digits from the right. So split it as such. So now our two separate parts are 2 and 89. We'll solve each of them one by one. The left part, okay, we'll solve first, always. So for this technique, it won't work if you try to solve the right part first, but you should solve the left part first. Now we have the number 2, and you know the squares of all the numbers from 1 to 9, right? So you find the nearest square number which is lesser than 2, which means you should have a number that is lesser than 2, which is a perfect squared number. Okay, so for example, if you get something like 70, the number should be less than 70 and it should be a perfect square. So that is 64, right? And now you find the root of 64, which is 8, and that will be your left part of the answer if Of course, your left part was 70. Right now our left part is 2. So can you guess which number less than 2 is a perfect square? Of course, it's very easy. That's just 1. 1 squared is 1, so you can write it as it is. And now using this 1, you will figure out the second digit. Okay, let me show you how. Take 89. Okay, and now check one by one for all the squares from 1 through 9. That would be 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, and 81. So before we continue with this, let's talk about what we're gonna do. Observe that there are only two numbers here, that is 1 and 81, which are ending with the number 1, and there are only two numbers with 4, ending with 4, and only two numbers ending with 9, two numbers ending with 6, and only one number ending with 5. Of course, you can have one number ending with 0 as well if you take 10 into consideration. Okay? Now using this, we have just eliminated around every number except 2 for the spot of the units place. You can see that 89 ends with a 9, and the square of any number, okay, will of course have a units digit. The units digit of that square will be the same as the unit digits of one of these. So you cannot have a perfect square with unit digit 2 or a unit digit of 3 or even 7 or 8. Is that all? 1 is possible, 2, 3 are not possible, 4 is possible, 5 is possible, 6 is possible, 7 and 8 you cannot find, and you have 9 and 0 of course, both of which are possible as the unit digit of a perfect square number. And we know that only two numbers are ending with 9, which is what our 89 ends with. So now you can rule out every other option except root of 9, which is 3, and root of 49, which is 7. Don't forget, you can't have 49 or 9 itself in the units digit. Okay, it's the root that would be the answer. Now how do you check if it is 3 or 7? What do? You take a number between these the squares of these two. In the sense, your possible answers are 13 and 17. So you take a number between the two. Okay, so you have the number between 13 and 17 squares, of course. Okay, and if your number, in this case 289, is more than that, it is 17 squared. If it is less than that, it is 13 squared. Okay, so generally for this you take the midpoint and the easiest number to square. You fill up the unit spot with a 5 temporarily. Okay, and then you find the square of it. And I'm not sure if we've done this technique before, but to multiply two numbers that are like this, ending with 5, you should take the two tens digits and multiply it by its successor. So 1's successor is 2. So our tens digit, sorry, the leftmost digit would be 2, and the right two digits are automatically 25. In the sense, if you have, let's say, our units digit, we somehow find it to be 8. Okay, so we take 85. Okay, to instantly square 85 in your mind, right part of the answer is 25, left part of the answer is 8 into its successor, which is 9. So multiply the two, you have 72. So 85 squared is 7225. So that's how it works. In this case, we have 15, right? So now we just squared 15 to find 225. Now we check if 289 is more or less than 225. And of course, just by seeing, you will know that 289 is more than 225. So that means it is the square of 17 and not 13. Because if it was the square of 13, it would have been less than 225. I'm not sure if I mentioned it. The number that you take in between has to be a square number so that it is a valid this thing. But I just suggest you always take the square of 5. It's the easiest to find and the fastest to go with, which is what makes this technique so useful. Okay, let me try for a 4-digit perfect square. Okay, let's take this number 1684. Okay, as the number which we want to find the square root of. And of course, I've taken a perfect square so that this technique works. Now, just like I said before, split the number into two parts. So we have 16, we have 84, and first we start with the left part of the answer. The closest square to 16 is 16 itself, of course. It doesn't necessarily have to be less than a number. It is okay if it's equal to as well. So we can take 16 root of 16 is 4. So left part of the answer is 4. Now we check the right part of the answer. Okay, our units digit is 4. So our possible options for answers are 42 and 48. Because 8 square is 64 ending with 4. 2 square is 4 again ending with 4. These are the possible solutions. Now, as I said previously, temporarily put 5 in place of the units and find the squared. 45 squared, 5 5s are 25, and 4 into its successor, 4 into 5 is 2025. Okay, now compare this with our original number, and you can see that 1684 is less than 2025. So that means our answer is 42. Because if it was 48, then our original number would be something like 2304. Yeah, so this would have been our original number. So since 2304 is greater than 2025, root of 2304 is 48. But since the number we have is 1684, the root of 1684 is 42. Now that's as simple as it gets. Okay, this is a really easy technique. You just have to memorize all the squares from 1 to 9 for this to work, but I'm sure you'll be able to do that because it's not that difficult. I hope you understood this technique, and watch out for next video.
So that was the square root technique for finding the square root just by observation. Most people with practice can do it just within a few seconds. So don't forget that practice makes perfect, and keep practicing all the techniques that I've been teaching you so far. These will be really helpful for you in the future. Next video, we'll be learning how to do square roots for a little bigger numbers which cannot employ this technique. Anyway, see you next week with a new video. Bye.